We start with the panels. The base, the most important part of this material, because without it we would just have a wall of yellow. Yeah, it's a super basic brick pattern. Tile generator, super simple, the best node in the entire package. The tile generator, super simple, just a square pattern with 2 for the X and 4 for the Y. And this feeds into pretty much everything. So what we do with it is we take it and we give it some bevels. Super tiny bevels. So the first bevels are these. You can't see them. Can't see them at all. You also can't see them here, but they're there. Don't let them fool you. These are the normal bevels. They're super tiny. You can hardly see them. But that's what we want, because according to our references, there's like almost no gaps in between these. So we don't really need like normal bricks going all the way to the bottom. We just need something there. And that's what the imperceptible is right here. So we have the imperceptible. What's this bevel for then? That's another question. This one will go into the color. But that is the panels. Panels. Done. Tile generator, 2 different bevels. One bevel to give us more of a space, and one to give us significantly less. For now, let's go into the normals and heights. So we're going to go from this bevel all the way down here. Whoa! Blended with the holes for the screws that we will come to later. But as you can see, it just gets added to that, added to a change, which we can flip on and off. And that's basically our entire normal, height, and ambient occlusion map. Now, the only other stuff that we add are these holes for screws. Because if we go back to our reference, we can see that this guy is screwing it on with a drill to whoever it's attached to. So clearly we need that. So we go for a different tile generator, this time the tile sampler. And this one is basically the same as this. The tile generator is cheaper. It has 2 inputs, a pattern, and a background, whereas the tile sampler is crazy. It's got so much more usage, but the usage that we need for this one specifically is for the size mode, keep ratio. Whereas in normal, this is what would happen if we put in the same X and Y and size data into the tile generator. It would stretch them side to side, but screw holes aren't oval. That would be weird. No. So we need them to keep their regular size. And that is why we use the tile sampler here. And from there, it's a super simple blur to give it a more of a softer edge, because it's not like a straight in. It kind of falls off into the hole. We blend it with some grunge. So, I mean, it's whatever it is, I'm sure it doesn't tear smoothly. Nothing tears smoothly. Then we put it into levels, give it different varying sizes for the holes, which may or may not be necessary, but well, we did it anyways. And that gets put into our brick and the normals go straight to a blend that goes to normal, height, and ambient occlusion. And that's half of your maps done. Not to mention that the metallic map, this material ain't metallic, so we can just sand black. Done. Now, next up comes the color. And for that, we need to start way back here with our good friend, the logo. Now, this is arguably the second most important part of the texture, because without this, It'd just be a yellow brick with screws. You know, that's okay. Sometimes you just need some screwed yellow bricks, but no, we need to make sure that this is exactly what the builders used. So, took a picture, transformed it to really get the logo in the middle, grayscale conversion, 2 levels to get it from here with all this fuzziness up to here, and we lose a lot of this. But you know what? We wouldn't have been able to make it out anyways. I have no idea what it says, and I'm not going to type it in. So in this blend node, we've cropped it with a shape for the background, so we can use it to cut off what we need. You can see that we can put it back in, which, you know, after I think maybe we keep it. No, it looks good like there. Definitely right there. We'll leave it like that. No, we'll put it back. We'll relieve the bottom. It adds a little bit more noise, and this texture could use it. Because let's face it, these panels, whatever they are, they're not exactly pretty to look at. They're kind of flat and kind of boring. Which is where more of this reference comes in, because as we can see on this zoomed in one, there's some color variation. So now that we have the shape cleared, we can pattern it again with the tile sampler, which, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe we don't really need. We could probably use a tile generator, but it's fairly simple. Yeah, plug it in there. It goes into here. Bada bing, bada boom. We blend it. It gets warped by our panels thanks to this flood fill and flood fill to random grayscale. Now, the reason we have random color and random grayscale coming off of this instead of just one or the other is 2 reasons. One, random color, when used with the directional warp, will go literally every direction. Any direction, 360 craziness. Flood fill to random grayscale will go with the warp angle. Wait, no, it's not directional warp, it's vector warp. Flood fill to random color goes to vector warp, which goes in every direction. But I want a directional warp for this because the dense glass, it doesn't go every which way. It is definitely it's just moving side to side. So we just need that. So, directional warp. We warp it to the side, thanks to the flood fill random grayscale, which gives us different shades of warping, which is perfect for what we need, because we don't need craziness. Craziness we don't need. No. So we're good. We Gucci. Yeah, but as we can see, we're getting some weird little artifacts here in the middle, where it's not warping because it's black. There's black in between the things. This is why we needed the openings. So we just take those openings, invert it, blend it out, and voila, the middles are gone. Which is great. Fantastic even. And with that, we can be off to the main color, which is oh so simple, but it takes so much of the graph because weird things, which I will explain. First off, we need to figure out what we're going to do for the texture. This really weird, like almost wood-like. It's really hard to see because the image is crappy quality, but there are very clear stripes going on, but with some vertical noise to it, which I somehow achieved using Grunge Map number 2, which has a similar grunge, if not a bit more noisy, but it's up and down, and we don't need that. So we turn it to the side, scrunch it down so we get more striping to the sides, and then we warp it by the original, which gives us the up and down noise. And that we put into the vector warp grayscale, which moves it every which direction, so every panel gets something new and different, which I'm pretty sure is what goes on with the panels, but I haven't been to a hardware store, so I don't know if they're all the same, if they're all different. They're probably all different. If not, well, I don't know. But back to the color. So we just blend it with these levels. Why? Well, for starters, we needed to knock it all down a peg. I actually don't know why. What happens if we get rid of that? Oh, that's what happens. Okay, cool. Yeah, we need that. Right. We need that for... Yeah, cool. So we need that. We blend it with the leveled brick with the small normals details. Then we blend it with the big details. And the big details are to give us a little bit more visual cut off from the bricks. They're not actually in the normal. They appear to be slightly, but they're not really. But we use that, we go into a gradient map. Now this gradient map is almost all the same color, which tiny details, tiny differences, which is exactly what we need. It's just a very small change in color in our reference, so we just needed a small change in color in the gradient map. See that if we move this guy side to side, almost nothing changes. Unless we do this, then we can see them a little bit more, but that's too much. In our reference, they are very clearly very similar values, so we can just leave them kind of right there. And then you're like, well, there's just a regular yellow brick there. I thought you said we weren't making those, and you are right. So, what do? We take the pattern mask that we made earlier, and this is when we finally get to use it. Except we have to invert it first because that's how masks work. White is yes, black is no. So we plug that into a blend as the mask, the opacity. Plug in this dark gray, which fits, and voila, is there. What else can we do? Well, we have to make the screw holes dark because those aren't exactly the same light color. They're not going to hit with the sky. They're basically gone. So we had those. We make those black. Bada bing, bada boom. Easy. And that's the color done. So now we just need the roughness. If we go back here, we pull the roughness from one of the blended grayscales right before the gradient map. Bring it down. The roughness is pretty much the same. Honestly, it looks fairly smooth, but since it's, I don't even know what the surface, it's probably very smooth, but as we all know, unless it's like super smooth and polished, it's not actually smooth. So what I have done is add some blue noise on top of everything just to make it a little bit noisy. Bring in the range, very homogeneous. Put it all together. Blend it in the screw holes. I honestly don't even think I need to do that. And then that's our roughness map. Now that's it. It's not a complicated texture. It is super freaking simple. But for all this work that we've just put in, we've done basically nothing. For all this hardly anything we've put in, it kind of seems like a waste. We have this lovely texture here, but what are we going to do with it? Single use textures? No, never single use textures. Always get the most out of your textures. Because who knows what you can do with these in real life? Leave them as is? Heck no. No. Some people like to put blue paint on theirs. And some of them put black paint. And some of them put paint over the screw holes, and some of them don't. We're going to put paint over the screw holes because I think it looks cool. We're going to put it on the edges too. So, let's get to it. All we need to do is add a single mask. The tape mask. Which is what I'm calling whatever they put. I was looking at something similar to this, but it was more of a black goop paint tape thing, whatever. We're calling it the tape mask. Who cares? I don't. We're calling it the tape mask. So what do we do? Well, for starters, we have to make sure that despite what we do to the bricks with the tile generator, the mask will always go over the edges. So we can't just make another brick texture and then shrink it a little bit. That would be silly. That would be a waste. No, don't do that. We don't make another tile generator and shrink the tiles to get the, no, don't do that. Instead, take the original generator and pull it down to 2 directional blurs. One directional blur goes up and down 90 degrees. The other directional blur goes side to side. For bricks that are vertical and horizontal, that's where the interstices are, this will work. I haven't tested on everything else. Everything else you may need to add some more blurs that go in other directions. But this works for these. You histogram scan them so you can bring out the thickness that you added with the blur, bring it out to a black and white, do it to both of them, blend them together, and boom, you immediately have thicker, which is great. That's pretty much what we need, right? Wrong. We gotta blend it with something very similar we do to the screw holes, which we bring down from their tile sampler, blur it, histogram scan, and we warp it, because warping is fun. Why do I warp it? Well, because if we look at the holes, they're not all circular, they're just haphazardly slapped onto there. So we want them to be different sizes. So we warp them with grayscale, which gets us fun stuff looking like this, which we can then blend onto the horizontals. But they're too clean. They're still too clean. So we blur them once again. Then we blend them with a grunge to make them less perfect, which is fantastic. Next, we go back to levels, bring it all to the surface, invert the grayscale because white is good, black is no. Warp it a bit so it doesn't look perfect yet again because perfection is bad. Well, in materials, perfection is bad. In making materials, perfection is what we strive to be. Then to add them into the maps. This is the most important part because you don't want to screw this up. Nuh-uh. First, we start with the color map because it's the easiest. We literally just made a mask. White, yes, black, no. So now we just blend whatever color we want as this. So I'm just going to steal the color from the reference. Oh. Steal the color from the reference, and look, it's blue. Woohoo! Any color we want, thanks to it being a mask and just uniform color node. Easy peasy. Color done. And now we blend it into the roughness, which is also super simple because it's paint or whatever shiny stuff. It's shiny. It's shinier. It's not super shiny, but it's shinier. So we just blend it on, make it a little more darker because white is rough, black is shiny. So we just make it a little bit blacker, but we add some purlin noise as a mask so it's not perfect. And for the normals, it's pretty simple. Instead of, we're not adding to the normals per se, we're more taking away from the normals. And you're like, what? What does he mean? That doesn't make any sense. It makes perfect sense. Because we start with these guys, which has the levels from this. It's this. The in between the cracks normals, we take and we blend it into our mask. What do? We lighten it because it's on top, so we need to add to it. How do we do that? Well, we push everything down because it's a black and white mask. We push everything else down, thus making the paint or tape or whatever stand out. And then we have to blend the screw holes into it. Which you're like, hold up, what? Why? Didn't we already? Yes, we did. But in this blend, we are multiplying. So we're in the first blend, we had to invert it because why? We just, yeah. I think we're just. We're gonna subtract. There. You didn't even need that invert. So the first one we're subtracting. This one we need to add to cancel it out. Because with the tape over it, you see the holes. That's the whole point of taping over the holes. Painting over the holes. Covered up. Gotta get rid of it. So, with that done, we've done the roughness. But now you're asking, hold up! How do I switch? How do I switch between the textures? How? Well, that's easy. With the multi-switch node. There's two of them. Multi-switch grayscale for everything, and then multi-switch color for base color and normal. But in our case, because normal, height, and AO are all built off of the same grayscale, we can use grayscale for all of them. Boom. So now, instead of having 3 different toggles when we export it to Unreal or wherever, we have one. Because what we've done, we've exposed the input of the selection. Selection input, we've exposed, and through the magic and wonderfulness of programming with art, we have made each one of these switches have the same input function as their input. So, if we double click out, we go to the input parameters for the entire thing. We can switch all 3 of them at once, moving the slider from 1 to 2. And there we go. We now have 2 textures for the price of 1, with hardly anything needed to be changed. Easy. Well, with that, it's finally finished. Thank you for everybody who made it to the end. If you want to enhance this material further, you can make the X and Y into variables on the panel generators, tile generators, so that everything scales with the same slider. But no, I don't like that. And with that, it's finally finished. Thank you for everybody who made it at the end. If you would like to enhance this material further, I will leave it in the description down below for you to check out on my Gumroad. To do with it as you will. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, don't forget to leave a like or comment. Now go and discover a world of materials. Goodbye.